Hey guys, what's up? We're back with another movie review. This time just me and Alex. Didn't have a chance to get John in with us, but we just recently ended up watching the newest DC movie. We ended up watching Zachary Levi in Shazam. We're just going to give kind of our own thoughts on it. Not going to be anything too long, just kind of some brief thoughts, what we thought of the movie, how we felt, acting-wise, what it might look like for DC, but nothing too extreme at this point.
Yeah, we'll give you about, 2 minutes of non-spoiler talk between the two of us, and then we can go into like a 30-second delay, wave our hands around, say, spoilers, don't listen to any more, or come back later to listen to it after you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
So, let's start off first. What did you, overall think about this movie compared to, the DCU?
Well, it's part of the DCU, right? Are they trying to
honestly
not... We could discuss this in a whole other thing. We're not going to get into that. As far as just DC movies in general, I think it's supposed to be part of their cinematic stuff. But in general, I thought it was definitely by far one of the better ones they've done recently. I know Aquaman obviously did well. I haven't seen it yet. I hate myself for not watching it, but I will get to it. I haven't watched Wonder Woman either because I'm super behind on everything, but I've heard great things about it, and those are really the only two that a lot of people with the DC stuff have enjoyed. Batman v Superman, we all know, didn't do great. I mean, it wasn't a box office flop, but people didn't really like it, and I can't say Man of Steel was great. It was okay. And then Justice League, I enjoyed the movie. There were definitely things about it that could have been way better, but I wouldn't say it was a god-awful movie. But I definitely think Shazam was by far better than those three. Definitely on par, if not better than the other two. But I can't make that decision until after I watch those.
If I was going to rank them, I would honestly have to put Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, BVS, and then Justice League on bottom. That would be how I would rank them.
All right.
But to me, this was a great depiction of a superhero who, yes, he is a Superman knockoff, even though he came before Superman. But, it gives a different perspective due to the fact that Billy Batson's only 13 years old.
Yeah.
Which I think in the movie they played him up to be a little bit older, but
just slightly, but he was still under driving age. He wasn't 15 or 16 yet, so at most he might have been 14, but I think he was still about 13.
Yeah. But either way, it gives a perspective of what if a kid got superpowers?
Yeah.
That's exactly what this movie is.
A lot of people I've talked to were like, oh, well, it wasn't as dark as some of their other stuff, and well, yes, I understand that. In a sense, DC, even comic-wise, is darker than Marvel. They just always have had a darker concept to everything they've done. This is one of those ones that it can't be a dark story. It's just impossible to make this dark. It's essentially taking Tom Hanks's Big and giving him superpowers. It's hard to say that you're going to be able to make that a dark concept, Even in the cartoons and stuff that have always been darker, Justice League had a little bit of a darker tone to it, Young Justice, all that. Even then, Shazam was always kind of that funny, comical, lighthearted character.
Well, they even showed that in Young Justice, he is a lighter superhero. Yeah. I thought it was great. And the kids did a good job, along with especially Zachary Levi, having to play essentially a grown kid, a man-child, interacting with Freddy, which is essentially, it's his foster brother, but they are brothers. They are.
Eventually they get to that point. Once and I wouldn't say this is a big spoiler, but as they say in the movie, you can't call a place home until you actually can call it home. You actually physically say, I'm home. That's when you can actually start to, become part of it. And when he finally takes that step, I would say they actually become brothers. Before that, he does have, a little bit of a hard time with that.
Yeah. And the cinematography good. Mark Strong did another great performance as the bad guy. Even though I really wanted him to come back and play Sinestro, because he did probably the only redeeming factor of that crappy Green Lantern movie is Mark Strong's Sinestro. But I think overall he did a great job as being the antagonist to Billy Batson's protagonist. And especially being that this is one DC film that kind of branched off, besides Batman vs. Superman, to have two antagonists. Like, I can't think... Aquaman really didn't? Like, there was one... I guess he had two. He would have two. But, like, they're kind of branching into more that Marvel-esque scheme of movies. Well, they'll have two antagonists, but one is going to be the primary, the second's going to be, like, either an introductory or a throwaway, just to get you into the film.
Yeah. I mean, who would you say was the second one in this, then? Because obviously...
I'll save it for whenever we do the spoilers.
Dr. Savan was the main dude, slash the other, I guess, entities within him, the Seven Deadly Sins.
That's what I was going to wait for the spoilers to say. Like, the Seven Deadly Sins are, to me, are the secondary villain. Because they're the one that kind of initiated it all.
Sort of. But they work in tandem with him, so I can't say that one's more the villain than the other in it, because Dr. Savan isn't the villain without them, because without the power that he gets from them, he does absolutely nothing.
That's true, but there's nothing to say that, like, they could bring back just one of the Seven Deadly Sins. Like, say they say they got away again, like one of them, not like multiple, like all seven. Okay. But they can bring back like individual sins to do, I don't know, like either be another secondary villain or just a whole movie about him confronting, like, a good one would be if Billy Batson had to confront like a specific sin that he was like against, like envy or maybe like pride.
Yeah.
Like just in general, like one of those two.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how that would work, because from what it looked like is you had to have that specific, what was it, the eye or whatever it was in there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily...
And that is what released all of them, so I don't know if they could do one at a time or something. It'd be a cool concept if they could pull it off.
Yeah. But overall, I think this is a good movie. Like I said, it's top of my DC films.
Yeah, phenomenal movie. I mean, again, I'm a little biased because I'm a huge Zachary Levi fan, but I also don't think they could have picked a better person to do it, because one, he knows his comic book, so he already knows the character, he's familiar with the lore and everything, so he can bring that to the table, which is awesome. If you already have that knowledge, you can do much better in it. And two, the guy is kind of already a big kid as it is, so acting it for him was just kind of natural, and he fit into it so well. But, I mean, he's also the only dude I know that's been in both a Disney movie, a Marvel movie, and now a DC movie. He's been in all three of those major universes.
Who is he in Marvel?
He was in one of the Thor movies. I think it was Thor: The Dark World. He wasn't a huge character, but he was in it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then, obviously, with Disney, he was Flynn Rider from Tangled.
Yep.
So, I mean, to be able... He's never really broken out ever. He's never... I mean, Chuck was a great show. It kind of got him there. But he's never been that mainstay dude in Hollywood. But to be able to hit all three of them is still impressive. Whether it's in a smaller bit role or with Disney and now DC, two major roles.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm excited to see where they go with Shazam after this, especially the ending. We'll get into some spoilers here in a sec, but the ending of it really sets up a lot. I don't know if they're going to do their own, like, Shazam standalone stuff, like Shazam Extended Universe, or if they're going to somehow try and work it in. But I'm getting into spoilers now. We're going to kind of talk more about the plot of the movie, what we thought at different points, stuff like that. So, yes, warning, spoilers.
3, 2, 1, go.
Essentially, at the start of it, obviously, I mean, the plot of it's not super uncommon, but to start off, we see Dr. Savan as a kid.
As Billy Batson's age, but his age.
At about Billy's age, back in, what was it, 1980 something, I think they said it as?
It was either early 80s or late 70s. I can't exactly remember what the script said. 80s,
but again, not a huge detail. Anyways, he's about Billy's age at this point, and they show him meet the wizard, who is actually named Shazam. And, you know, he's going on with this whole, I'm trying to find a champion who's pure of heart, yada, 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 kind of like a lot of things do.
Well, that, and it also showed, like, whenever you first meet Dr. Savannah, it almost made him sympathetic towards, like, his cause during the whole movie. Yeah.
He has a rough relationship with his dad and his brother, is about all I can say. Mom's not even in the picture, which I found a little weird, because they never explained that. But
well, I got it kind of as also a little shout out to the dad. Deep dive for DC fans. He's Lex Luthor's dad in Smallville.
Okay,
a little deep dive there. But I think how I interpret it as his dad takes on a very like survival of the fittest, like the weak should bend to the strong, and I think that's because. Dr. Savannah, him in general, I think he killed his mom whenever he was born. And I think his dad took that from, like, that's just me stipulating and, like, me filling in a plot hole that I feel like is strong. Because, like, this whole movie's about, like, losing family.
Yeah.
And, like, gaining family.
Yeah. So kind of like she died during birth.
Yeah, I took it as either she died during birth or died, like, shortly after due to complications. And that's why his dad is, like, has that mindset of, like, no, the strong are the only ones that can survive. And even though Dr. Savannah would be strong because his mother was the one that passed, he's still a little kid. So he's going to be perceived as weak compared to his older brother.
Yeah. But after we see all that go down, we see him go to the wizard. Wizard essentially puts him through what is a test that you don't realize is a test at first. Tells him you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Which, to a kid, is devastating. If somebody just says you're not good enough, you're never going to be good enough.
Oh, yeah, and it just...
Especially with the way his dad was. Already having heard stuff like that, to have some other dude tell you that just makes you go, well, dang. He comes out of that... Tries to get back, keeps yelling at dad and brother, you know, I saw this wizard, I have to get back. They get into a fight. Dad crashes the car. They get hit on the side.
Like, him and his brother are fine, though.
Yeah, Dad, on the other hand, looks like he's going to die. We later find out that he's just paralyzed from the waist down. He's actually in a wheelchair, but, I mean, you find that, maybe 45 to an hour later that he's still alive.
Yeah, I'd say about that time. Like, they take a break and set up Billy's story. So, like, midway through Billy's story is whenever you finally get to see, like, grown Dr. Savannah.
Yeah. But then they get to Billy. You see him trying to find his mom, essentially, because when he was a kid, he got lost from his mom at a carnival, and she never found him. Like, he went to the police. He's been in foster homes ever since, and he's just been trying to get back to her. Had, like, 41 names or something on a list of...
Something along the lines of that.
People with the last name of Batson, and none of them were her. Yeah, he's trying to find his mom, essentially. He's ran away from multiple foster homes. They have another family come in. They say, we want to take him.
Yeah, and here's my question. Were they actually, like, married?
I think so.
Or, because, like, they described him as, like, they kind of just took all these kids in.
I think they're married. The way they acted throughout the movie, I'd say they were married. But, yeah, they've got multiple foster kids. And they know how to connect with them because they themselves were foster kids. They're like, you know, we're not going to give you some spiel. We know it sucks. We've been here.
And, like, it goes out of its way to set them up as, like, humanizing with Billy. Like, even the father, I can't remember his name, though. He even says, like, at one point, Billy ran away for the first time with them, and he's like, listen, I know, I've done it.
Yeah.
Like, his mom had done it. She was staying right there. And, like, they were trying to talk to him. It's like, we're here to work it out with you. But he's, like, the disgruntled teenager who doesn't want to work it out. Like, he hasn't found that, like, niche to get him to say, like, no, this is your family. Like, even though we're not blood, we are still here for you.
Yeah. But we see that eventually, you know, he gets to the house, settles in to an extent, meets everybody there, goes to school the next day, kind of has to deal with everything there. And that's when we see what we saw from the commercials, which you wouldn't think would happen with the way that he was acting with them, because he didn't really act like he wanted to be there. He didn't act like he wanted to be nice to his brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And then he sees Freddy getting beat up, who is a disabled kid.
It's Freddy's his disabled brother that, like, who becomes super close with. Closer than any of the other ones.
Yeah. But he's getting beat up on, so he grabs one of his canes and just beats the crap out of these two dudes for a couple seconds before, you know, they get up. He takes off, gets to the subway, and that's where we see, again, from the commercial, where he meets the wizard Shazam.
At the Rock of Eternity.
Yeah, the Rock at that. The 7 deadly sins at this point are gone because Dr. Savan had gone back, taken whatever thing that was. I think it was some sort of eye thing.
I can't remember what the device is called in the comics. I should have looked it up before we started shooting, but I cannot remember.
But we see Billy meet him. The dude's like, say my name. He's like, dude, I just met you. I don't know your name. He's like, Shazam. And he just loses. He's like, there's no way your name's Shazam. That's stupid. And the dude just kind of yells at him. He's like, okay, I got it, okay.
Yeah, he basically is like, you silly boy, I'm giving you, like, all, like, to me, I kind of took it as, like, OP magic. Like, he's the, like, guardian of all, well, they also set it up this way, too. He's the guardian of all magic.
Yeah.
And the one thing I liked about that scene, about whenever he was getting beat up, is that, like, to become Shazam, you have to be pure of heart. And, like, even though Billy is rough on the outside, he ultimately wants to do the right thing. Like, you gotta remember, his driving goal to find his mom isn't the fact that he's selfish, it's the fact that he lost his mom.
Yeah, he doesn't know why he never was found. He thought, you know, maybe she tried and never found, so he's trying to find her to maybe make things right. Eventually we find out that she had found him and left. She saw him with the police. She left because she's like, they'll be able to do a better job than I could have, because she was a teen pregnancy. And she kind of resented it the whole time, in a sense.
And then you find out what happened to his dad. Like, she explains what happened to his dad. And,
yeah. But
I don't know. It's a very modern take on it. I wasn't too thrilled about it.
With the parent
With
thing.
the biological parents thing. Like, to me, I wish, because they set up his dad to be a felon in prison, and that might come back in the later films, like, just for drama purposes.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, I feel like it would have been hit more if, like, he didn't know his dad had passed away, and that would have gave his mom a little bit more of an incentive to be like, you know, he would have been better off. But just because he's in prison.
Throughout the movie, you see him, after he meets Shazam, you see him learning, trying to cope with his powers, really trying to figure out what kind of powers he has. You see him and Freddy working together at first, and then Freddy is getting picked on again by the same guys. He's like, oh, well, my buddy, the Red Tornado, or whatever other name they were giving him, because they didn't actually say Shazam.
My favorite
Billy won because he couldn't, but they didn't realize that was his actual name either. They just kind of thought he said it until later when Billy realizes, oh, that's my name.
Yeah. I really like Freddy's, because Freddy is perfect in this movie, because he's the one that's like your weird take on a mentor's, or the hero's journey. Yeah. He's like the weird mentor that is supposed to die at the end but doesn't.
Yeah.
And his names for his superpowers are hilarious. Like, instead of bulletproof, it's, you have bullet immunity.
Yeah.
And, like,
most of them are pretty straightforward, but there are some of the ones that he gets a little weird with. Some of the names are a little out there.
My favorite was whenever, it's in the trailer, whenever you see him beat up the guys at the convenience store. Well, what the trailer doesn't tell you is that's actually like a video test that they're doing. And that's where the bullet immunity comes up. And he was like, no, shoot, you don't know if it's a suit. Shoot him in the face. And, like, Billy's like, yeah, shoot me in the face. And then he's like, wait, no. And, like, it's too late, and it happens. Yeah. But it's hilarious how it happens.
But no, when Freddy kind of goes off on him, and he's like, oh, my buddy's going to show up, that's when Billy's like, no, like, I didn't agree to this. Like, you're kind of using this to your advantage a little bit. At the same time, though, he wouldn't know anything that he knows without Freddy. So you see that back and forth. Eventually,
I looked at it as a brother's quarrel. It's like, no, you're just using me. Like, I don't want to do this right now. Like, that's how I kind of saw it.
Yeah. Eventually, though, you see them get over it. Dr. Savant ends up grabbing them, holding them hostage in a sense at their house. Billy shows up. They kind of get out, and they end up getting away from him. They end up at a carnival.
Oh, no, you missed...
I'm missing something in there.
So Dr. Savannah kidnaps Freddy after the initial fight with Shazam, because Shazam realized that he isn't as powerful as he thought he was.
Yeah.
And, like, Dr. Savannah figures out that Freddy knows Shazam. Yeah. Like, his other form, somehow. He doesn't know how, but he knows that Freddy knows. So he kidnaps Freddy. Freddy doesn't tell him. Like,
he might... He doesn't tell him who he is, but he asks where he's at. And we don't see him tell him, but the fact that he ends up at the house, he either told him something... He either told him where he thought he might be, or he somehow figured it out. We don't know on that.
Yeah,
because
that's
they don't
true.
show that. He doesn't tell him who Shazam is.
No.
But we don't know if he told him where
I take that back. He does accidentally tell him who Shazam is. So,
sort of.
After the fight, Shazam says Shazam and reverts back to Billy, and, like, he runs away. But Freddy doesn't know that, and Freddy is, like, looking for him, but he messes up and says, Billy, where are you? And that's when Dr. Savannah puts it together.
Yeah. He didn't really tell him specifically who Billy was. He just knows his actual name in a sense. But yeah, they eventually, after he gets to the house holding the rest of them, they end up at a carnival somehow again. Don't remember. There's a lot happening there. Oh, they did. He took Billy to the Rock of Eternity first, was trying to get him to hand over his power. His brothers and sisters went through the door and started shooting Nerf guns and rubber balls and stuff at him.
I love it because one of them's like, Victor, you're holding a lamp.
Yeah. and
this is also a little snapshot into seeing what the realms, how to get to the different realms as well.
That was cool. But they eventually end up at these sets of doors, which is where you see the realms. They eventually tell Billy, like, how did you get out before? What happened? How did you leave? And he's like, well, I just thought about the subway, and I wound up on the subway. They're like, okay, think of something then and get us out. Ends up at the titty bar because for some reason that's where he went.
Well, remember, that's whenever him and Freddy tested invisibility.
They didn't test it. They were just going around the fact that he was an adult.
Oh, see, I thought that's where they went in to test invisibility.
No.
Okay.
No, the invisibility thing, they were outside. He's like, oh my God, you're invisible.
Oh,
and then the one guys walk by and they're like, hey, nice suit. The strip club was literally just them seeing what they could get away with since he looked like a mid-20 to 30-year-old.
That's true. I forgot about that.
They end up at the titty bar, run to the carnival. Billy changes back into Billy until...
and Freddy knows all the strippers by the first name. And his older sister's like, really?
Yeah. But they end up... Dr. Savant ends up there. Billy eventually realizes, I've got to turn back into Shazam. This is something I have to do. He still ends up getting his brothers and sisters. Him and Dr. Savant end up fighting a little bit. Not a lot before this happens, but they fight a little bit to the extent where...
I feel like it was better, but it showed Shazam's, recognition of, he's understanding his powers more.
Yeah. They fight a little bit. He eventually tells him, get down on a knee, give me your power. He grabs the stat, or as he's going to grab it, he remembers that, the wizard...
You forget, Dr. Savannah was about to kill Billy.
No, he wanted to take his power.
No.
Because he has to touch the staff to give him his power.
He was ducking his head in the water, and he kept trying, like, Billy was underwater, and he kept saying, Shazam, Shazam,
that was
and
a
nothing
whole
was happening.
different thing.
I thought that was right beforehand.
No, that was before then. That was the first time they fought. And he went back to Billy, I think.
No, it was the second, because that's whenever they split up. Billy fights.
Oh, yeah.
He gets caught and dunked underwater.
He was trying to kill him, but later, after that, is what I'm talking about. They get through that, and then he's holding all of them with the sins, except for Wrath?
Envy. Because that was Savannah's sin.
Well, and he was also the smallest.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but I'll get to that in a sec. Either way, he's holding them hostage. He tells Billy, get down on a knee, touch the staff, give me your power. Billy remembers that the wizard was like, these are my brothers and sisters, yada yada, and he's like, wait a minute, I have a bunch of brothers and sisters. So he grabs the staff, essentially kind of uppercuts him with it, and it frees the rest of them for a split second as he kind of reels back.
Yeah, because the sins have to go back into Savannah because he got hurt.
And at that point, he's like, say my name. He's like, grab the staff. He's like, all hands on deck, because that's what they said before dinner each night.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody grabs the staff. He says, say my name. And they're like, Billy. He's like, no, the other one. And he's like, the thing I say to turn into this. So they're like, oh, Shazam. Then we see the biggest twist of the movie, and we see the Shazam family show up.
And it is as awesome as it sounds.
Essentially, the rest of the movie is they take on the sins. Billy gets Savannah away from them. That's when... And he's been told by his Freddy, get the sins out of the eye, and we've won, essentially. Mm-hmm. That's all we have to do. So he gets Savannah away, and that's when he starts mocking Wrath. He's like, Envy, sorry. I always want to go Wrath. He mocks Envy, and he's like, oh, ugly little Envy, small Envy. And essentially the sin gets to the point where he's pissed off, and he leaves the whatever thing. It's in his eye, so I think it's some sort of eye thing in this movie. But he leaves that, essentially leaving Savan to be mortal again.
Yeah, because the deal with Dr. Savannah is he has all the powers of Shazam, but he has to have the sins inside of at least one to have the power.
But he leaves, turning Savan back into immortal, and you finally see Shazam. He doesn't rip it out, but he does something where it just kind of comes out.
Yeah, it just kind of takes it out, because at the beginning, I thought that he lost his eye.
Yeah.
That dark part of the whole movie would have been him, having this thing smash in and gouging his eye out. But no, literally 10 minutes later, you see Dr. Savan trying to get back to the Rock of Eternity from the Sane Asylum, and he has his eyes and his glasses.
Yeah. So... it doesn't actually destroy it. I guess it just kind of goes in and it takes over your eye, essentially.
It's magic, so there you go.
That's all you need to know. It's magic. It doesn't matter. There is no logic. But you eventually see him get that out. And essentially that's kind of how the movie ends until a little bit in the credits where Savan is in... before we get to that, they get it out. They get him in prison. They go back to the Rock of Eternity. They put the thing back where it was supposed to be. The sins are now locked away in statues again. And I don't know if it's Freddy or if it's Billy, but one of them, I think it was Freddy. He's like, guys, do you know what this means? And I think Billy looks at him. He's like, we got a lair. Because essentially that's what they're going to use the Rock of Eternity as. They've got access to it now. Why not have that be your secret lair?
Which I wonder, they didn't really explain this, and I assume it is, but is the Shazam family at all able to get there, or do they get to go there individually, or do they have to have Billy because Billy's the leader?
There's a lot they haven't explained about the Shazam family yet, but after we see that, we see Dr. Savan in jail, and this little slug that you saw at the start that I thought was just a random slug for no reason.
Oh, yeah, that's a super cool Easter
shows up, and he talks to him, and he's like, oh, you want real power? I can give you real power. I'm like, what the heck is this slug talking about?
And you get the reveal, and a lot of people don't know this, Cody didn't know it, and I had to explain it to him.
Yep.
They introduced Mr. Mind to Dr. Savannah in the jail cell. And that's huge because Mr. Mind is the most powerful telepath in the entire DC universe. He's more powerful than Martian Manhunter. He's more powerful than Megan. Anybody who's telepathic abilities, he's way beyond them.
Okay. But yeah, we see him show up. That's essentially how the movie ends. The reason we're discussing what happens with Shazam now is because they could do a thing where it's just a whole Shazam universe and keep him out of the DCEU. Because with the Shazam family, they could set up all kinds of movies just within that.
Well, yeah, Jeff Johns is doing a run right now in DC. It's not Rebirth, but I'm going to say that for practicality purposes, that he's using Shazam and the Shazam family to like do a Fantastic Four-esque journey throughout the entire realms. So like they fight problems in the realms, understand like more of why they're the champions of magic and all of this stuff, and finding out more of their powers. And I think that would be cool to have on its own.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what they decide to do with Shazam. I think right now it's still part of the DCEU just because they haven't said it wasn't.
You said it earlier, and I was waiting for the spoiler cast to do this part. I don't understand if DC, they come out and say every movie's on their standalone. Okay, that's cool. Fine with me. If you're rebooting it that way, that's all right. Then why use the stupid Batarang from BVS? Why use the picture from Man of Steel?
The bullet.
The bullet. And luckily they didn't reference Justice League. But they did reference Aquaman, though.
Yeah. And then at the very end of it, a little cameo because, like I said earlier, Freddy was like, oh, well, my buddy Red Tornado is going to show up and show you all that I'm actually cool.
Yeah.
So he's at lunch. He goes to sit with some people. They leave. The rest of his brothers and sisters show up. Billy's not there. You see Shazam walk in, sit down, and be like, you want to know who taught me everything I know? This guy right here. And he looks at him. He's like, by the way, I brought somebody else. And you just see from like,
neck down.
I wouldn't even say neck. Most of it's like chest down.
So the Superman symbol down.
Yeah, you see pretty much chest down, Superman walk in.
Yeah, and sets his tray down, and then the cafeteria just goes silent.
I can't say it's the exact suit that they've been using for him.
Yeah, and like
it's not like they redesigned the suit to make it be a standalone. It's the exact one they've used for Man of Steel, for Batman vs Superman, and Justice League.
Yeah,
so
there's your Justice League reference right there. So like I don't get it because DC has come out and said that they're doing standalones. And in an interview, the reason that Henry Cavill...
Standalone doesn't mean it's not part of the universe. That just means it's that superhero standalone movie.
Yeah, but...
There's not going to be
in the context of the interview, it sounded like they were talking about it as like a whole universe of standalones. Like, nothing's going to be interconnected. It's all different. Like
that's just stupid.
Yeah, but if you're going... Like I said, I'm convinced that they're going to have to do Flashpoint for that Flash movie to reset everything. Because even then, you don't have to reset. You can keep the good things. Like, Flash is your ultimate, like, reset.
Yeah. The only problem is whether Flashpoint happens or not. We can talk about that in another thing. But essentially, that's what Shazam is. That's the basic story of it is you see Dr. Savant get turned down, turn into a bad guy. You see Billy get the power, struggle with it, become a superhero, and get the rest of the family involved is a very short gist of that.
Oh yeah, but it's super good though. Like it may be a simplified plot, but by God, they hit the nail on the head.
It was again. I can't speak on whether it's better than Aquaman or Wonder Woman. I haven't seen it. Obviously, you thought it was at the top for what DC's done. If I was rating it, I would easily give it. I hate to give it a 10 because that sounds dumb. I don't think anything's ever perfect. It can always use work, so I'm going to go like an 8.5.
That's what I was going to give it, 8.5.
And while in American grading standards, I know that sounds like a B. I don't know that there's much more they could have done to make it better, but nothing is perfect, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't know if I could have enjoyed it much more. It's just I can't give it stupid high just because then it sounds dumb that you're like, oh, no, it was spot on. Everything was great.